Okay, I want to show you how to use the fancy editor that we have. This is typically you'll use the default editor for most things. It works best, but there are a few things the fancy editor does that the default editor does not do, and I'm going to walk you through some of those right now. So let's just click on this. So here we have our normal About Us page, just with some placeholder text in it, all in Latin. So we'll just highlight a couple of words, and we'll just go through and make some changes to it. So we're going to now just change the font size. So we'll make that a bigger font. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Next thing we have is the superscript tool. And in order to do this, I'm going to just go in here and we'll go to our special characters, and we'll get a register trademark. Now, the register trademark is too big, and we need to shrink the font size of it. But before we do that, if we just try and change the font size of that, watch what happens. It changed the font size of our whole block of text. So instead, we make it a superscript first, and now we go and change the font size, and it changes it by itself. So if you're doing that, if you have a special character, you need to superscript it, then change its size. Okay, now carry on to the other tools. We'll highlight our text here some more. Let's change its font color to be red. Okay, that looks kind of nice. So this one is the highlighter background color. Be careful with this one. I've seen people make their web pages look really ugly using this tool. We're just going to use a light yellow. This looks like you went over the text with the highlighter. Don't use this very much. It can make your page look really amateur and ugly. So typically I don't like using this except in very rare situations. So to turn it off, we just click this little X. Okay. Now we get to pick fonts. The font tools, we have Google Fonts in here, which frankly don't work on all web browsers, but has a really good set of basic fonts as well. So we clicked Impact, for example, and here's another nice thing about this editor is when you make a change, you see it immediately in the editor window. Instead of having to click Save Changes on this little tool and then see it in the window, you see it as soon as you do it. So that's pretty cool. So now we can see that what our impact looks like. We'll just close this window. I'm going to skip. Well, actually, let me show you this. If we decide we don't want to keep any of the formatting we just did, we just click this and it goes back to its original size. I'm going to undo that. There we are. So now we have our bold. In this case, because we've already got bold text, it's not going to bold, but it will italicize, it'll underline, it'll do a strike through. Okay, so neither of which we want, but I will italicize it. It looks kind of cool. This is the tool which does the cool things, which is why we gave you this editor, this little T, which is your text effects. And here you have control of all the same kinds of things you had up here. Color, highlighter, you can center and align text and do lists, all things that are otherwise in the editor anyway. But what this does allow you to do is change your letter spacing, so the space between your letters. It's pretty cool. Your line height, which is how high each line is. Your word spacing, space between words. Your font size, again, you already had that here. This allows you to do it a little differently with a little more finer tuning. But here's the reason we got this for you, is we can add 3D effects to our text. So for example, if we go 3D, and there's a bunch of different shadow effects that you can have here. The one I like best is this 3D one. I think this looks pretty cool. So without having to load a graphic or anything, you can make your text look really sharp graphically. And the paragraphs tab over here is headings, and again you have that here. So this little module is mostly here for the shadows. And that said, you can see now this looks very cool. This won't work, especially in most of the versions of Internet Explorer. All of the other browsers, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Opera, it works in all of those web browsers. For some reason, we don't know why. It's why web developers don't like Internet Explorer. They are not compliant with the new standards. At least at the time of this recording, they aren't compliant. So that's this little section, and I'll carry on to the next tutorial, and I'll show you more.